Welcome, everybody, to the Bryan Foltice Behavioral Finance Podcast. My name is Bryan Foltice, and I'm here to teach you about all things behavioral finance. Thank you for joining me today. We are going to talk today about changing our behaviors and learning that changing behavior is not just a one step process. We need to rethink this whole thing. And this is going to start a new series that talks about redefining being rich, what it means to be rich, what it means to live an abundant life. And we're going to start there. So, thank you for watching and welcome back. It is good to be back in the saddle here. This year has been incredible for many, many reasons. And we're on the tail end of this now, heading into the holiday season. And I just finally got a chance to catch my breath with school and my job. It's Thanksgiving break, a little downtime. So now it's a good time to start this next phase of this podcast that has been percolating in my mind for the entire semester. So my summer was productive from a podcast standpoint, from a behavioral finance standpoint, was clipping along, and I got the email from the dean of the business school at Butler where I work, and he asked me if I was willing to serve as the department chair of not just the finance department. That would have been really easy. I had already been doing that, no problem. That was 6 people. And uh, he asked me, though, they were going to combine the departments. And now this mega department had 18 people in it. Would I be willing to be the chair of this? I thought about it and kind of hemmed and hawed a little bit, and I took it and ended up being a lot of learning. And I didn't even know what I didn't know. Therefore, the last 3 months now have been basically a blur, and I'll never get that time back. But I do believe that the job of being the department chair, in addition to teaching your classes and serving the students, will flatten out. That learning curve will flatten out. And so that's, knock on wood, that's hopefully what is going to happen. But it's been a great semester, albeit a very busy one. And I am just really, really excited to share with you where we're going here in this behavioral finance area, and really, maybe it's just me, but new insights that I've had into the world of behavior and changing behavior and what it actually means to maybe make better decisions. And this has constantly been evolving in my head throughout this entire year. And so, what you're going to hear in these next podcasts are more or less just a workshop of walking it through. And I had thought for a long time, oh, I really want to have it all structured and I want to make sure all the frameworks are set before I bring it out here. And then I just thought to myself, no, just present it. And as you talk through it, it will start clicking into what will be a more organized set. But anyway, I did think this was really important. And the first thing that we wanted to talk about here is changing our behavior. And this starts our conversation on behavioral finance goes mental. And I've always thought about changing behavior in a very right brained, quantitative way. That's how I think, right? That's my default. And so I always think about this and I'd say, change your behavior, just do it. Change your behavior. Enough said. And and I think that's how a lot of people, certainly in academia, think when it comes to making uh, suggestions for governments in our retirement plan design. And we just say you need to save 10% per year. Do it now. Or we'll get even more paternal with Secure Act 2.0, where we're going to automatically default or automatically enroll somebody and force them into 401k savings until they have to opt out. So the default is they stay in. We talked about this in a previous podcast, but it's now becoming policy from Congress. I think it's in Congress right now to be mandatory for this enforcement of 401ks in retirement planning. So all very paternal. And then we're wondering why. And so you put this in, and then you wonder why are withdrawals from 401ks spiking? Why are they up? And you go, wait a minute. Well, we're forcing this change of behavior, but they're just finding different outlets. So it's not actually going to make actual substantial changes. They're just going to find a different outlet to withdraw money. So when I think about this, I take a step back and we go, wait a minute. Instead of just one step, the behavior, which we always talk about, and man, I'm so hyper focused on the behavior. I finally took a step back and go, wait a minute, this is uh, more complicated than just that. This binary change your behavior, yes, no, right, wrong. Oh, been really going into, mental health and really trying to improve that in my own life. And I'm seeing what a dramatic difference that makes in all aspects of my life. Where I thought that was just one category of a number of categories in your life that you kind of check in. How are you doing with? And I didn't realize that the mental aspect is actually driving all of the other ones. And the thoughts that we have are that main driver. Oh, hear me out. Think about it just in 3 steps. In 3 steps, if you have a thought, then you make a decision, and then you act on it. So there's the behavior. There's 3 steps though: the thought, decision, and behavior. Think about it's Thanksgiving week. Gonna gonna make a turkey. We say, what side should I make with the turkey? Well, you have to do. And so the thoughts here are, okay, what are the different options? And then we'll go through the different options and we'll think about them. And of course, we have our defaults from previous ones, what our preferences are. We're taking all of that information and we're going to make a decision. And we're going to say, hey, I decide we're going to have to do the mashed potatoes. And if nothing else, mashed potatoes. And I did get a 22-pound turkey here. So we're going to do Thanksgiving here at the house because we got a new dog. So all these different things that have happened in addition to being busy with work, have a new puppy. And so instead of going up to Michigan for Thanksgiving, we're going to stay and continue to train our puppy. He's not ready for the big leagues up in Michigan with family just yet. So anyway, we looked at the options, we thought about it, made our decision, and then you act out and you have the action, and the behavior is we're going to make those uh, potatoes. And you think about it, you go, yeah, well that's simple, but you don't just stand there and go, oh, what am I doing? Oh yeah, it's a process. It's not just the behavior. Somebody who is robbing a bank has to go through the three-step process. They don't just wind up with sitting in the middle of the bank holding up everybody going, "How did I get here? I don't know. Is the behavior that I just chose?" It's like, no, it's the thought, the decision. Should I do it? Yes, I should do it. And the action around it. So I started really thinking about thoughts and what that will actually do to drive behavior. And in order to change the behavior, better start changing thoughts. Now, going back to our conversation on social norms, always going back, just there's 98% of the people around just going with the flow. And the social norms we see here, you go to school 8 to 5. We're starting you on this process of being chained to your desk, being around, following structure throughout the day. So then you can go to college, you can get your degree. Doesn't matter how much you pay for it, doesn't matter how much debt you take out, but everyone's doing this. So just go get your degree. Doesn't matter what it's in, just choose something you're interested in. You get done with your degree, and then you get a job. And most people will find their 9 to 5 job, and they'll do that for the next 40 to 45 years. All these norms, and then of course, as soon as you do that, you start getting income, and you need to buy a car, take out a car loan for that, doesn't matter. You need to buy a house, take out a mortgage for that. Now you're living the American dream. And then it's having 2.08 kids. Make sure you have the dog. And what am I missing? There's the kids have to play in a travel sport, even if they're not good at sports. And I've got a whole podcast teed up for that one based on overconfidence of parents and how much money we're actually spending on that. But don't worry about it because everyone's doing it. And we are paying thousands of dollars per year in order to fund this particular activity. And if you don't have the money, you can always just take it out on credit. But that's what everyone's doing. Then you get a retirement if you're lucky, and then you die. If I am running an economy and I want order in my economy and I want to grow that economy, I'm going to have as many people as possible following this structure because from an economic standpoint, spending money, the velocity of money is what's going to spur growth. So I get it. I get why that is. But now you just see people who are going through these motions. And as I'm learning about thoughts, I'm learning that we have between 60 and 70,000 thoughts a day. And 90 to 95% of those thoughts are the same thoughts that we've had in the past. And they're just reoccurring thoughts, reliving the past. That's a lot of it. A lot of it's worrying about the future. And we're consumed with both of those sides. And so we forget to think about the present or think about being present. And most of the time, we'll go down a negative spiral path. But all of this is basically like Groundhog Day, where we're thinking the same thoughts, they're replaying in our mind, and we're just going with the flow, following what everybody else is doing. And finally realize, whoa, this is wrong. And so for me, it was thinking about in my own life what I needed to do to change the thoughts. And for me, being in finance, I've been so focused on being financially successful, making the right decision, being a financial like all these things that I still had a lot of shit thoughts going on and I never even realized it. So, what I wanted to talk about is basically how I think about just high level framework about overall taking inventory into the different categories on how I would see and check in on how I've been doing. And I've been doing this for a very long time. Oh, hear me out here. It's this framework, and there's 5 things that I have. And so this first one is faith or mental health. I'm going to put that in one category. And you're going to see this F trend. And that's why I put, the faith part. Then number 2, you'll have family and friends. Number 3, your finances. Number 4 is your fitness. And then number 5 is this is where I get off the F train here. It's purpose. So living out your life's purpose. Um, it's or your vocation. So if you wanted to stretch it a little bit, you could pronounce it in German and say Vocation, and that would be the F part. But if anybody knows something around life, purpose, or career that starts with the word F, please put it in the comments or shoot me a note. I know most everybody is listening to this, and they don't get to see my pretty face on the videos, but find a way to contact me because I'm missing that final F. The Foltice 5 framework Fs is missing that last one, but that's a big one, and it's about pursuing your life's purpose. So, as I've said before, finding this mental health or your faith or whatever in your head is going to drive the rest of this. And as I've said, I always kept track now for almost 20 years, these 5 categories, and just check in. Hey, how am I doing on a scale of 1 to 10 in these 5 categories? And for a long time, I could be around fives and sixes, but then I was down and I was like, man, I'm beginning of this year, I wrote down basically threes and fours. I was just hanging on. And I basically just went to, was going through some relationship issues and was talking to a friend who said, look, if you've been married before, you're going through a new relationship, you're bringing all of your previous experiences of that relationship, and your fiance is bringing all of her previous relationships experiences into this, and you need a mediator to just talk it out and to work through it, um, and just this would be a good idea. I said, you know what, you're right, that's good advice. So I went and found somebody and went on my own first time to talk to her, and I remember I looked at the, different places and just making this one little decision. I look back on it, it's just been a huge pivotal moment in my life. And I found had a picture by it and a number of years of experience, and she kind of looked like Joyce Myers. And so I thought, you know what? I won't I don't think I'm going to be able to bullshit this person. She's gonna call me out for what what I really am, and I think I need that. Once I got on her schedule, we started talking, and it ended up being, uh, it wasn't a relationship problem. It was me problem. So she's like, "Don't worry about Mandy. We don't need to talk to her. Let's talk about what you need to do." And so we started going down this conversation, getting to know you, and I was this was back in March, even though it seems like a whole lifetime ago. This was back in March when I had a conference. I was in Puerto Rico, and she said, "Hey, I want you to read this book, The 7 Laws of Love by Jay Shetty. And I just want you to go through it and just start working on some things and just start thinking about some things." I said, "Okay." So I remember sitting on a beach and I was reading that book and realize, and it was just maybe the first chapter, and it basically said, just doing a little checklist, and said, "Do you like yourself? Yes or no?" Or and I got stuck on that, and I was said, "Oh my God, I cannot even answer this. I can't answer this yes or no, I don't know. It's an absolute no. I do not like." And I didn't even hadn't even thought about it. It didn't even occur to me any of this. But when I got to that question, I could not answer that. I had to answer that no. I go, "Oh my gosh, what?" And I was on the beach, I just started crying, and it's like, "Oh, wow, I've there is a long way to go. You have a lot of work to do." And it was at that moment where I started the process of forgiving myself and really accepting myself. And that kinda in the book, it starts talking about acceptance and self-love. And 42 years old at the time, I had never when I thought of self-love, I thought, you know, I'm gonna go get my nails done, hashtag self-love, or, you know, I'm gonna have a little, masturbation time to myself, self-love, and that was all I thought. And so it wasn't like, do you actually accept yourself and love yourself? And I was just like, "Oh, well, we better start now." And we started that process of just talking to yourself, your internal thoughts, nicely. And that's where I realized that, man, when I have my kids around, I think I'm a pretty positive dad, and I don't wanna be that naysayer. It's like, "Hey, great job. You're doing great. Keep it up. That's awesome. I'm proud of you." Like, that's how what I would say to my kids. That's what I would say to my students. "Hey, keep it up. That's great. Good work. That's" but always upbeat, always really positive. When it came to myself, I was super negative, and it it kinda came back to, like, what sounds like a basketball coach or an old coach or a parent, and that's what a lot of our, thoughts, if not addressed, come from, and they're really, really negative. So over time, this kind of manifests itself, and I was doing a lot of things right, and the way I would talk to myself, to give you an example, I was in Puerto Rico, as I was going through this, I ran for 3 miles in the morning. So I got up, took a run for 3 miles, and, felt good. I got back, changing clothes, and I looked at myself, and, um, and I was trying to say, you know, "Good job," and was doing, but then all of a sudden, the thought came in, and it's like, "You know what? You used to be able to do 5 miles, you chubby piece of shit." And it's like, "Whoa, okay, it's gonna take some work, and we're gonna need to hardwire this." It's not just this soft wiring, "Hey, everything's great, everything's awesome," but deep down, you're not believing it. And so it ended up being, "No, we're not gonna have those thoughts anymore." If my son told me, "Hey, dad just ran 3 miles this morning," that's great, that's awesome. And and so I started thinking those thoughts to myself, "Man, keep it up, that's great." And guess what? Immediately, you wake up the next morning and you're like, "I'm gonna go run again." And you go a little longer, you feel a little better, and you're talking to yourself going, "This was awesome. Great job. Now you did 2 days in a row. Keep it up." Just and then you start building momentum. I was like, "That is huge in how we talk to ourselves." And there's much more to this mental health and positive thinking, and but that for me was a huge moment in accepting myself and loving myself. And I look back and I go, "You know what? I've not looked myself in the mirror in a very long time." And because I didn't like what I saw when I looked in the mirror. And then when I did look in the mirror, it was for flaws, to see like what should I improve with my physique or with my body. And so all these things, when your mind starts going, transforms, and you don't worry about what other people are thinking. You realize that you were insecure and you wanted external validation. And once you find that peace in your own mind, you don't need that. validation anymore. You just kind of go and do this. And then you start thinking, well, what's my real purpose? And when I don't care what anybody else thinks, it's all about pursuing my purpose. So all of a sudden, these things start building on each other. And now you go, oh, there's so much more to life than what I was doing. And I can't believe nobody ever talked to me about this. And I had to wait for 42 and a half years to learn this, essentially the hard way. And so when I'm talking about mental health, this is not I'm not sharing this story for me. I'm trying to help somebody. Because I think there's a lot of people in pain, and man, you see it all around. So, ooh, there'll be there'll be more stories on mental health that'll be woven in here. But when I think about living a rich life, and now even doing like gratitude, doing I start doing not every day, but boy, I can tell a big difference. Gratitude, last thing before I go to bed, just thinking through things that I'm grateful for. And then the same thing in the morning, doing things that going through things that I'm thankful for. And then even if you wake up in the middle of the night, do the same thing. He'll put you right back to sleep in a really peaceful way. And all of a sudden, you just start building positivity, and it's a real authentic positivity. And and with this change of acceptance and mental health, I realized that, man, I was in the right position helping students in my job, but I always felt like I was pouring out to students and really trying to help them. And I would feel really depleted or like a deficit after so long or so many days or at the end of the semester. I was just a complete deficit from giving to students and giving, giving, giving. And once I realized my mindset was changed to a much more positive, much more grateful and accepting mindset, all of a sudden it would just come out as like overflow. I just had extra to give. And so when I'm pouring into students and when I'm trying to help them and get into their lives, I would walk away now at the end of the day, the end of the week, being in perfect equilibrium where I'm not giving up anything. That's just extra, and I'm just passing it on, hoping to make a positive impact on my students and the people around me. And that's kind of what I took into, even if I'm having work at home days, it's still trying to take that positive mindset and helping people and um, thinking, who can I help today? What can I do? Well, I want to be aware about possible opportunities around. And boy, what a game changer. Your whole life just comes to a whole different level of life. And I'm not saying that to say, hey, look again, look at me. It's to be really vulnerable, to be honest with you, in hoping that somebody goes, I should probably check on this, or I should probably talk to somebody. Um, that they need to talk to somebody, and they may not have even been aware, like I was, and probably needed this 20 years ago. So I talk to my students. I've been starting to talk to my students about this and tell them, hey, look, mental health, it's not just a catchphrase or word or anything like that. This is a big thing. And if we're having 60 to 70,000 thoughts per day, man, I was thinking I had resentment, I had some underlying anger issues, and to be able to work through those and override them, and to just simply let some of that go for others and for yourself, man, you just basically start a whole different life. And that's what I feel like. Now, I know you're here for behavioral finance, but we had to talk about that top line F, our mental health, or our faith, or whoever we are. And we realize, look, don't think like this new age whatever. Like, I want everyone to understand, this is whether you are Buddhist, Christian, Muslim, if you are a mathematician that bases your whole faith on quantum physics, we all agree we are God's highest creation. That's it. And so, if we understand that we are God's highest creation, doesn't it make sense to have our mental faculties in a in line with that? So anyway, I'll leave it alone for now, but we're coming back to that. It's too important, and man, it's just been such a game changer for me. So now we have the other four categories, and the second one is family and friends, and so I've got family up in Michigan, and I've lived in different places and all over the world, and have friends in all these different areas. And so it's wonderful and very enriching. But sometimes you feel like you're a little bit isolated. You're in suburbia, Indianapolis, surrounded by not really freaking boring people, to be honest with you. And it's not a judgment. I used to be a judgment. Um, I think everyone's doing the best they can, and just a majority are falling into the social norms. And but there was a feeling of isolation. And I realized after my mental health increased that I was willing or able to accept love from other people. And this was something that I didn't even realize again was lacking. So I would always give a 3 or a 4 to friends and family. And once the shift occurred, we were up in Michigan for the summer, and we got to see all sorts of old friends and family members. And I realized that, wow, I'm very loved. And this is amazing. And then people started coming into my world here in Boring Fishers that were really interesting, and that were trying to do different things with their life, not just following the regular norms. And I go, okay, I I needed to accept this and be available to this in order to um, take my thoughts, to my category, how I would assess this, to another level. And so now that was basically driven from the top line. I don't really think much changed except for my acceptance of these family and friends. But anyway, that category's gone higher. I mentioned I'm going to skip finances because we're going to come back to that one. Ooh, y'all got me a little emotional here on Thanksgiving. I guess, it's a near and dear one here. I'm okay with that. And we'll see. Usually Christmas season. Yeah, I'm a crier. I'll cry during some movies. Over under on how many times will Love Actually make me cry is probably usually around 2. Anyway, um, the fourth one in our lineup here is called fitness. And once again, this is what I believe is more and more important as you get older. But when we have such this hyper focus on finances, or whatever aspect that your family is really important, that's great. But fitness is something that we need to think about this holistically. Would you rather Would you be a millionaire but not be able to, like, move around or be on the verge of a heart attack? That's how it, manifests itself, where you've got somebody pursuing career so hard and working so many hours that they find themselves on the verge of a heart attack, but they've got money in the bank. Are they happy? No, but they've got money in the bank, and they don't have very good relationships, but they got money in the bank. And I go, "Okay, well, I'm now making fun of this," but that was what I was trying to do. I was trying to say, "Well, let's just work for money and that'll make everything happy and everything like," and I realized that no, there's so much more to it, and that finance or the fitness part is something that comes along. I see so many parents around here that are unable to participate with their students. In fact, there are businesses around here that have their kids in the evening just go and do gymnastics and playtime. And all the parents are just sitting there in these couches or on this chair on their phone, just zoning out. And so I believe we're missing out on two aspects. One is this family, back to family, spending family time. You don't have to pay for this, just go to the park with your kid, but then also be engaging with your fitness. And so you don't have to be a triathlete or doing these crazy um whatever what are they? Not mud runs, but triathlons or long distance Ironmans. That's what I was looking for. Just think about your fitness and showing up and adding that to your life, making that a part of your life. And once again, to tie that back to the mental health, is this idea of talking to yourself positively, saying, "Hey, great job." And you missed a day. Okay, that's fine. Hey, come on back. You always, fall 7 times, rise 8. Get back up and get back into the gym. Just keep going. You're gonna feel better. And it's interesting that your body responds so positively to this. And I've noticed just in my own world that, um, uh, for me, it's not running a triathlon. I wanna keep up with my kids. I wanna torch them in basketball. I wanna play in the delt dunk and compete, at Butler. There's a 3-on-3 tournament that I'm the only professor that plays, the only person that's over 22 years old, and I want to compete in that, but I also want to, like, win. So out of 40 teams, my team got 3rd place, and we were right in there. So much fun. But as a 42-year-old, I'm not 43 now, this is something that I take a lot of pride in. I wanna do that. I am not 6.5% body fat like I was when I was playing professional basketball, but I'm okay with that. I still am probably the strongest I've been ever from a strength standpoint. And when I get up on the Peloton bike, I'm always looking just to, even on a bad day, trying to be in the top 1% of people historically who do the Peloton rides. And for me, that's a good gauge, but um, I want to be able to have good fitness along with my mental health. And in order to live a rich life, I want to take care of my body to the best of my abilities. I am not perfect by any means, but again, I probably won't be tens because that would make my diet better and probably cut out alcohol completely. But I can still check out pretty high in my own assessment on fitness. And then there's this vocation, vocation, and life purpose that I believe that many of us are missing out on. And so for me, the sequential order, I always suspected, what I really wanted to do, and um, was still kind of going through that process of being very defined about who I want to be, what my purpose is, and where I want to go with that. And I just feel like, man, in the university system, In finance, we push so hard on our students to get your finance degree, get the best job possible, and then it's all about just getting that job, working really hard, making a lot of money, and we're again, this was me. So it's not a surprise that we're pushing on this. But I've recently have pivoted out of that in my talks with my students and go, look, man, or whoever you are, you've got tremendous gifts that are very unique to yourself and that nobody else can do. So find that and find your purpose. What are you supposed to do? Not what your parents are telling you to do, not what your professors are telling you to do. What is your actual purpose in life? And press into that. See what that is and kind of shape that. But we've got to move past these social norms in order to fulfill your life's purpose. And so for me, I was earlier this year, I was starting to refine that and now it's becoming clearer and clearer. And so I had a eBay business doing cards, which grew, I think, pulled six figures this year. Not they're just gross, not net. But that was taking up a lot of time, and there was the singing thing that's always a little bit what used to be big ego. That was kind of it, but also kind of a creative outlet. And to really start to s- dwindle it down and go, look, you're going to do anything well, you're going to do it right. You need to be mono focused. And so I've got to basically wind those down in order to be focused on serving people in the university level and then also in the area of behavioral finance. And it kind of wolves into the personal finance. But this framework, though, I believe is starting to be where we need to that's where I want to push. So, not to give all of it away, but this life purpose is something like I'm not telling you to live out your life purpose and I'm not doing the exact same thing. I am trying to live all this out and I'll share with you probably more than you ever want to hear, but I'll be out here leading. And as that happens, I'll be on the front lines to experience, hey, this really worked or this didn't work. I'm liking this. Starting to think along these lines because I'm telling you, none of this would have come out back in March, even of this year. And then finances is the final one. I had a big change of heart around the finances. And it was coming from we're gonna probably go into this later, but ever I didn't even hear this before this year, and this is just how much it's changed, but in my own world, but the mindset of, scarcity versus abundance is something that I've been really, really working on and trying to come up with a whole nother framework around that, on what that actually looks like. And so for me, it was always, I'm going to save a certain amount, I'm going to build wealth. And yeah, shit, the divorce set me back. And now we had to split it all. And now I'm going to build it back up. But now I got it on my own. And you're just focused on saving and wealth building and then thinking about other ways to build wealth. And but the question that I had to ask myself is, okay, how much is enough? What is your end goal on this? What are you gonna and so according to Charles Schwab, uh, the survey that Charles Schwab gave, the answer is $2.2 million. That's what the general population believes is how much do you need to be rich? So another one said over $1 million of liquid assets. We would consider that high net worth individuals. Oh, how we define rich? Again, we want to quantify this. We want to make it a number, so then we can say yes or no. But for me, we want to think about how do finances play into your other categories? And now we can start maybe basing some of our assessments in our finances, how it's affecting these others. So follow me here. Um, are your finances affecting your life purpose? So, how many of you might think, man, I am doing A, my heart says I should be doing B, but I won't have enough money to either transition me out or to move me into the next step of what I truly feel I'm supposed to do. Well, now all of a sudden that's a negative knock on finances. To have your finances in order, to have savings for that freedom and that flexibility to do your life purpose, to move you into that. And do believe, though, that once you're in that area, you'll find a way to make money. And this is something that many people worry about. But my coaching to many of my students is find your life purpose and then figure out the way to make money around it. And wouldn't you know, there's plenty of ways to make money in whatever you want to seek and what you're seeking to do. And it's the same thing with your fitness level. And are you able to do you have flexibility in your life to work out, or to you have flexibility to be with your family, to spend time with friends, to do travel, to have these experiences? So I started looking at it going, yeah, I am living a very rich life because I'm able to now fire on all cylinders and my finances are not in the way. You want to have more? Sure. Yeah, that's fine. But when you have this enough, I have enough mentality, it's this kind of moving into the abundance area. So I have enough. And if I lost half of it overnight, what would actually happen to me physically? I would not change one bit. I would basically be in my same house, living the same life. Nothing would affect really my day. So when we come back to that, oh, all right, finances are not hindering me from doing other things. I'm going to keep this as a positive. We're going to keep building wealth. We're going to keep adding new channels. So um, we'll have more passive income so we can be financially uh, independent, just in case life needs you to move somewhere else. But again, you start thinking about this abundance, and basically abundance is money flowing through. Money flowing through. Scarcity is kind of like this reservoir. So you bring money in, and it just stays in the reservoir, and that's like these ponds that never get pumped or anything like that. You know what those start looking like. Well, in real life, you think about those people who take in money and don't actually do anything good with it. They worry about it because they use their as their financial security, and their whole security is put in this money, and they're so tight-fisted. How many of you know somebody like that? I can definitely think of people in my own world who are like that. And yes, they've checked that box, but we wonder about the other categories, and are they living an abundant life? Is money flowing through them? And I started thinking about that in my own world. It's like, what would that actually look like? Money flowing through. And so for me, I was started giving, doing some extra giving or extra tips or different things like that. And it just would always come back. And things were starting to happen with me that I just didn't even realize. I had to actually learn how to accept people giving stuff back to me because it was coming in so much and so fast. And so the more I would pass out, the more it would come back to me quicker. And I realized that, okay, this is a dangerous game, because a potentially dangerous game, because if I start letting my ego get in the way, I'm going to go back and I'm going to use this as like an investment strategy. Say, ooh, okay, well, if I know this is going to come back, I'm going to give this amount. I know I'm going to get it back, and it's with the wrong intentions. And once I can check my ego at the door and just say, look, I'm going to give this. I have no expectation. I just want to help somebody and and it feels amazing. That's awesome. I just want to pass out any positivity that I have onto somebody else. And it just doesn't really matter. It's just amazing. Man, you want to see like miracles and things that happen in your life that just pop in, the people who pop in, the circumstances, the they're not coincidences even. They're just, we call them miracles, but when they happen so many times, they're just they're not really miracles. They just happen. So anyway, I don't even know where I was going with that. I'm I'm saying though that with our finances, we need to think about our how it's how our finances are playing into our other categories. It's not just one thing. And that's, I think, where I'm going to leave it. So we've come a long way today. We laughed, we cried. Oh man. I hope somebody is helped by today. And I believe that this message over time is going to get more and more refined. But the thoughts needed to get out there, and the framework I wanted to throw out there as well. If you have any feedback or thoughts around this, please let me know. I would love to hear from you. All the other podcasts are online. BryanFoltice.com is available. This, knock on wood, winter break, going to be working. If not, it'll be spring semester. The behavioral finance online course will be a thing. It will be up and running, and I will be doing more seminars. There is a monster need for my seniors and people who are in college to just have a real life conversation about what their finances are going to be before they jump into the fire. And so I'll be on campus working on that and talking about that more in detail. But lots more to come. So if you made it this far, just want to thank you very, very much. And you all have a life purpose to fulfill as well. So hope I can play a positive role in that. And if you need anything, just find a way to contact me. I'm Yeah, I'll try to do Instagram. I'll be on Instagram, right? Instagram or BryanFoltice.com, or right here in YouTube, or on any of the download podcast channel. So thanks, everybody. Have a wonderful day. Happy holidays, and we'll talk to you next time. Bye.